Yo, what's going on? Your boy Ghost here. Today I am bringing you guys another comparison video between the M4A1 and Krig. Now I know that this video might seem like a troll or it might not seem that serious, but trust me, I am 100% serious when I'm making this video because as you guys all know, after the mid-season update, a bunch of weapons got changed and a bunch of other weapons were able to kind of like come out of the shadows and be considered a top gun. And the M4A1 was a gun that benefited heavily from that mid-season update, and a lot of people have been talking about it, a lot of people have been using it, and they just been loving it. And I, myself, whose favorite gun is the M4A1, very happy to see that the M4 is getting a lot of love in the current season of Warzone. But anyways, before we get into the comparison, I want to say if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button for me. We're close, we're not close, we're like 200 away from 3,000. That's the goal that we're trying to hit before the end of the year. So if you help a brother out, that'd be greatly appreciated. Also, man, if you guys do me a favor and follow my Twitch channel, we are 3 followers away from 200. So, you know what I'm saying? Please, if you have a Twitch account, go follow my Twitch account. I'm telling you, the vibes will be little, bro. Anyways, with that being said, let's get into the comparison. And then we have the recoil pattern for the M4. And I'm not going to lie, this recoil pattern is a little bit misleading because by this recoil pattern, it kind of seems like this weapon has like not that much recoil. And truthfully, this gun shouldn't have too crazy of recoil, but at certain ranges, or at least with my specific build, the recoil is kind of uncontrollable. But that also could be because of the user, aka me, not being able to control it fully. Because I'm not going to lie, bro. There be certain engagements where my gun is literally shooting zigzags, and I'm not kidding you when I'm saying that I literally waste like 2 clips trying to kill somebody at range because your boy can't hit a shot. I literally had an engagement the other day when I was using this gun where I was fighting this guy for the longest. I literally wasted, I think, like 3 clips trying to down the guy, and I finally did it, but I wasted about all my ammo because I couldn't hit my shot. So the little tip that I would give you, and this honestly depends on if you want your M4 to be a little bit slower on the ADS time, and that would just be, instead of using the Commando foregrip, which in my opinion is probably the best underbarrel to use for Modern Warfare ARs, use like a Ranger or Merc, because I think the Operator, it might be a little bit too slow. I've used the Operator in the past. The Ranger and Merc will obviously slow down your ADS because, you know, you're also using the VOK, but in terms of just controlling the recoil, I would definitely recommend it because the M4 in its current state, like the way I used to use it was sniper support, and even now, even to this day, it's still a really good sniper support. I would even argue it's one of the better or one of the best sniper supports in the game. But right now, with the current state of Warzone after the update, I think this weapon is more like a primary weapon threat where you could use this like the good old days and be able to succeed with it. And in comparison to the current meta right now, I know like we have the C58 and the Krig, which I'm not gonna lie, I think the one factor that they have, or not that they have, but they definitely have over the M4 is the no recoil compared to the M4's shaky recoil. That's like the one thing I know for a fact they have. I'm not gonna lie, they also both have damage over it, but actually we'll get into that in a little bit. But anyways, back to the M4. But if you want to compete with like a Krig or C58, I would definitely recommend using the American Ranger. I didn't want to sacrifice my ADS speed. I felt like I was comfortable enough controlling it. I mean, obviously I'm not 100% truthful there because I will be honest, with the Commando I still struggle to control it fully or even come close to controlling it somewhat good. And you know, maybe in the future I'll probably go like with the Merc or Ranger because I think this weapon is a very, very good alternative for like the Krig or C58. It's just that I think you need to, I don't think it's for everybody. Whereas like the Krig and C58, I feel like most people could pick it up and do good with it. I feel like the M4 is one of those weapons that not everyone is going to be able to succeed with it, and only certain people will be able to fully use this weapon. And I'm not even one of those persons that was able to fully use this weapon because, again, I had instances where I was losing gunfights at mid-range to guns like the Krig or C58 because I couldn't hit my shots. At long range, I was missing out on kills and leaving people 100% one shot because I was missing my shots because I couldn't control the recoil. And it just really, I think, depended on the user and how you build it. Or I guess not even how you build it, just the underbarrel. But I gotta be honest, I think judging by my experience and how I used it, the M4 this time around, I honestly think an iron sight M4 would have done me a lot better for range and medium range. I used to be an M4 god. I still consider myself an M4 god. It's just that I'm more used to using M4 for like competitive play back in Modern Warfare and being able to use it in like close to mid range as opposed to like really long range of Warzone, if that makes any sense. But I'm rambling. I apologize. With that being said, man, let's get into the Krig. And here we have the recoil pattern for the Krig. And we already had the whole range discussion and whole recoil discussion in the first part of this video, so I don't want to go too much more into that. But I will say, obviously, the Krig has less recoil, way easier to control, and for the average player, it's probably the more, you know, sure pick. And statistically, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of looks one-sided for the Krig, but my job here is to demonstrate an argument as to why the M4 could be considered, or should be considered, a great alternative for the Krig. So, first, I want to start off with the fire rate. The M4 has a fire rate of 809 RPM, while the Krig has a 652 RPM, and that is a pretty, I would say, a pretty significant difference. Now, it's nothing crazy like the Mac 10 in comparison to all the other SMGs, but the M4 has a pretty, you know, nice advantage over the Krig in terms of fire rating, and close to somewhat mid-range, the weapon will be more effective in my opinion than the Krig, just because I think at those ranges that's when fire rate matters the most, and then at long range is where stability and damage matters. Now you can argue with me on that, and you know that's fine. This can be from your point of view, your opinion, but as for me, my POV, I think that at close to mid-range, that's when fire rate will matter the most, and then, you know, long range, we already know. And then, so for the damage, this is a little bit interesting, maybe for some. For me, it's kind of interesting. To the head, for 0, okay, let me rewind, I apologize. 0 to 29 meters for the M4. The headshot damage is 40. The chest, stomach, and extremities is all 27. And extremities, if you do not know, is the limbs, so like hands and legs and whatnot. Which is pretty solid for the M4, gotta be honest. I actually kind of felt like it would have been a little bit weaker. So I'm glad to see that it has some good damage. But in comparison to the Krig at 0 to 38 meters, so about the same range, the Krig has a 45 damage, a 45 damage to the head, 33 to the stomach and chest, and then 30 to the extremities, which is obviously a significant change, or a significant difference in damage between both of them. And, you know, again, statistically speaking, you would think that the M4 has no chance with the Krig. But again, close to medium range, I think the M4 definitely outshines the Krig. Again, like I mentioned, the M4 is a weapon that is known as a good sniper support, so it's very favored at those short ranges, and that's why I think it's a lot better in those ranges, even though that the Krig heavily out damages it. But when we get to like the long ranges, the 29 meters and above, that's where the damage drop really hits the M4. 34 damage to the head, 23 for chest, stomach, and extremities, and then on the other side, the Krig has 38 to the head, and then 28 to the chest and stomach, and 26 to the extremities. So basically, the Krig does the same amount of damage as the M4 at close range, at long range. And so I think by that is the Krig is the obvious choice at long range. Well, actually, theoretically, it's the obvious choice at long range when you go up against each other, like one another. So if like a Krig and M4 went up against each other at those long ranges, the Krig would be the obvious favorite. But this is Warzone. You're not gonna always, you know, go head to head with somebody. You're gonna get lucky and be able to pick someone off who's not really shooting back at you, or pick someone off who is not, you know, you shoot them in the back. And so I guess theoretically, by that criteria, you can say most weapons are, you know, able to compete with things like the Krig and whatnot, which is actually true, because the Krig and MC58 aren't weapons, or at least in my opinion, where they're like completely dominant metas where they kill really fast, or in general you just can't compete unless you're using those weapons. But I just think that the M4 does just enough to be able to be considered a top gun, or to be on the same level, not on the same level, but close to the same level as the Krig or C58. Although, you know, most people will still probably pick the Krig over the M4. Statistically speaking, the Krig does, you know, outshine the M4, which don't, you know, let that discourage you from using the gun. I would still give my vouch for this gun. I had a lot of fun using it. I still think it's solid. I don't think it really let me down. Yes, I did get outgunned by a mid-range, but there was always like some reason. I rarely got straight up just gun. Because, you know, again, like I mentioned, I'm not 100% accurate with this weapon, and most of you guys won't be. But I'm telling you, you still will find some success with using this weapon, because this weapon is really good, and I'm glad to see it get at least a little bit more attention than it was in the last few seasons. And I hope that this video can help you see that the M4 is a pretty reliable weapon, pretty strong weapon. And I just hope that this weapon gets a little bit more love, because I felt like this weapon, ever since the no stock nerf, or ever since the good old M4 no stock days have been obliterated, this weapon's just been kind of just there. Just there. And I hated seeing that, because the M4 is my favorite AR in the game. But anyways, man, with that being said, let me know what you guys think about the M4 in the current state of Warzone. Do you guys think it could be a top 3 weapon in the game, or I mean top 3 primary? And yeah, man, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys later, and I'm out. Peace.